Hey everybody, I'm Rutledge Wood from NBC Sports. This is our Watch With. We have got Josef Newgarden, we've got Colton Herta with us, Alexander Rossi, and Simon Pagenaud. Fellas, thank you so much for joining us. I know that we would typically be watching the start of the Brickyard 400 together is what kind of our notion was, because we had some lightning roll through, a little bit of a weather delay. I think we should just start with yesterday. So I'm going to just start. I'm just going to pick someone randomly. Alex. Oh, man. Yesterday stunk, bro. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Did y'all – all right, what? Was it fuel pressure? Does everybody know exactly what was going on there?
It was fuel pressure, yeah. What's weird is we had the problem really all through the weekend, and we changed everything that we thought was related to it, and then we would solve it. And then it would come back again. So it was just one of those things that we didn't quite get a handle on. But yeah, yesterday was not great for a lot of reasons. So as Colton likes to remind me every time that we see each other, season's got off to a rough start, but it's all right. There's 4 races here in the next 2 weeks, so we're excited about those ones.
Good. Okay, good. Well, then let's go to Colton. Certainly a better day for you, man. We lost it. Oh, you're back.
I'm here. Sorry, I got a fat finger.
No, you're fine. I know these other guys have a more delicate balance for their phone than you do, but let's talk about the day for you, man. How was it? I also heard you got to see Alexander at an appropriate distance at a social function later, which was also, I'm sure, very exciting and rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, from a physical standpoint, it was a very tough race. It was very hot, so that made it extremely tough. But it was a pretty quiet day from me. I don't think I didn't really have too much pace, but got lucky with the yellow, so it kept us up there, and then just kind of cruised to 4th place, and that's pretty much all we had. We were just kind of floating around. We didn't really seem to have the pace that like Josef and Simon had when they would undercut and were really fast in outlaps and could make up positions. We didn't seem to have that. So had the pace in qualifying, just not quite good in the race.
Fair enough. Josef, what about you, man? It was a wilder day than I think a lot of people were expecting, but some different strategies played out. And we know it was hot. How was it for you in the car?
It was a really tough day, just like these guys said. I think everyone in this series is super fit, but there was no getting around the heat difference. Compared to 2019, this aero screen change is very, very hot in the car now. And so just trying to survive the race was a new challenge and very different than Texas about a month ago. That race was less physically demanding. This really ramped up the intensity, and I think everyone was really trying to fight to just get to the finish physically. But for us, we had a good day going, and then I felt like we got smacked in the face about halfway through the race with the yellow, which sent us all the way, the back of the line pretty much. So it could have been a better day. We tried to salvage what we could on the restart, and I think it was lap 40 or something like that, and we worked our way back to 7th position. So yeah, it was up and down. I felt like we had a little bit more for the weekend overall, but we're not leaving there with a huge bruise. So I think we recovered enough.
Yeah, that's cool. Simon, man, what a day y'all had, starting where you did and to have a finish like that. Man, it's just so much fun I stood at turn 7 and watched you guys, and seeing the amount of speed that y'all scrub coming in there and then barreling left at 90 degrees. Sometimes that sensation of speed doesn't translate for people at home, but to watch you dig and to see how far you came, knowing the heat played a factor, everything else. When you look at the day, how do you feel like y'all did? It certainly wasn't the finish that you wanted, but pretty good day.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty dramatic week for us. We just made the wrong decisions in qualifying. We went totally the wrong way, expecting the track to go toward oversteer, and it didn't. It went to understeer, so we had way too much understeer. The front of the car was sliding too much, and we couldn't produce lap time. So it's so tight right now that we ended up starting at the back. Very disappointed and frustrated about it, but what we did is put the car back together to where we're happy, and then we had a great race. I pushed 100% from the beginning till the end. I had nothing left at the end there. I had start finish. It was time to finish the race. But in the meantime, I really enjoy these kind of fights because you've been training for a reason. IndyCar is all about that. It's about pushing your limits away, and it was really tough. But we played a really good strategy on the pit sequence, and that's where we had a lot of speed on new tires, especially, and we're able to jump a lot of people. So we jumped a lot during the pit sequence. Obviously, the yellow was a little lucky for us. Otherwise, I think it would have been probably 6. But podium at the Grand Prix was special. It's a place for me that has been very special, and just feels like I'm very lucky there in general.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's for a lot of the fans that were asking about how different it was for the canopy with y'all. One thing that came up during the broadcast was that you guys aren't able to have yet like a cool box like so many people see in NASCAR. We saw the Xfinity guys. They were hot, and they have essentially like an air conditioner for their head in the car. But the watering system seems kind of weird too. Let's pick Joseph. Why don't you tell us the difference of running this year with that canopy at, say, the Grand Prix, and then I'll ask somebody else about like cooling and some of the other things. How was it a noticeable difference temperature-wise and what you can see with the new canopy?
So temperature-wise, yeah, big difference. Very, very big difference in cockpit temperature. I don't have specific numbers. The other guys might know these stats better than me. But let's just say, on a 92-degree day at Indianapolis like it was yesterday, before the aero screen, it'd probably be 100, 105 degrees in the cockpit would be my guess. Now it's probably 120, maybe 125. So just raising that temperature by maybe 20 degrees is a significant strain difference. And I think what makes, IndyCars so difficult is physically they're very hard to drive. I mean, they are a challenging car. So when you take a challenging car that's already pushing your body to the limit and you add the temperature effect to it, I think it's just pushing everybody to the limit. To start things off though, IndyCar did a really good job developing the screen. You asked about the visual of it. I don't even notice it, to be honest with you. Now I'm so used to the thing, it feels like the old IndyCar except for the temperature. So visually they've done a great job, but cooling wise, I think we've got a ways to go. We've already done a lot of good work trying to filter air into the cockpit and also pull out some of the stagnant air that's sitting in there, but we still need more. We're going to have to continue to develop it as a series and as the drivers get together because it's not quite enough at the moment.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because if anybody remembers the show Mythbusters, they did a really cool thing where they showed what air is like in the back of a pickup truck. And it was kind of like the notion of should you ride around with your tailgate up or down? And they showed that kind of cushion of air that just sort of circulates. That's kind of what y'all have going in the car, it feels like. So your first thought, okay, well, Alex, you got to be able to like cool yourself down. Will you explain what seems like a really antiquated way for y'all to consume fluids when you're in the car?
Well, first off, are you supposed to have your tailgate up or down?
Well, they say if you have it up, it actually creates this sort of air
like
cushion.
vortex.
Yes, exactly, a vortex. And the air will then go over, creating what Tanner likes to always call vortices.
Uh-huh. So you're more fuel efficient?
Yes.
Interesting.
Which is weird because you think it's opposite.
Yeah, you'd think more streamlined. All right, so good to know. The question was, how do we drink things? Yes, it's not super antiquated. I don't think, other than it's a Camelback that's kind of just shoved in the side pod. And right now, the teams aren't really allowed to get creative with it in terms of placement. First of all, because there's not really a lot of options, and second of all, because IndyCar tries to keep it all the same for everybody. But some guys have where it's just kind of a bite valve where they can suck on the tube and get fluid. Other guys have kind of like a windshield washer fluid sprayer motor that you have a button on the steering wheel and it'll actually spray water into your mouth. So, I mean, it's a little bit different devices, but ultimately the problem is that after about 10 laps, the water, even if it starts frozen, is virtually boiling. It's hotter.
And you don't feel like that we could consider that antiquated? It feels like we're forcing you to drink boiling hot water.
That's a fair point. It's kind of like a torture ritual.
Yeah.
In a way. It's like waterboarding you with boiling water.
Absolutely. Like,
a little bit antiquated considering it's 2020. You're right.
So you're hot. Have some hot water.
Yeah. Enjoy that. Good luck. So I think as Joseph said, we have some ways to go with the cooling. But I think they're all problems that are fixable. We just have to get creative, and there's a lot of smart people and engineers that are going to come up with ideas to make it work. So ultimately, I think this was a good race for us to have to kind of open our eyes to some of the issues. Texas it went off pretty smoothly. Our first race with the aero screen on the oval. I think the big concern now is everyone looks forward is a doubleheader at Iowa. So I think, and for a lot of guys, Iowa is one of the most physical races we have. It's always very warm there, and now we're doing 2 of them. So I think we need to definitely make sure that we have some of these issues at least a little bit more sorted out in 2 weeks when we head to Iowa.
For sure. Colton, do you think there's a way, and I don't know if it's, I mean, when you walk through the museum at IMS, you get this amazing feeling of the history, seeing how new ideas develop, change, everything else. Do you think there's a way that we're going to get to, whether if it's a little NACA duck, a Louvre somewhere, do you think they're going to keep working on the canopy and trying to figure out new ways to kind of mix that air as it's coming in to make it a little better for y'all?
I mean, 100%. They're going to have to, because I don't think we can keep it how it is. Yeah, I mean, it's tough, especially if we're going to be doing 500-mile races. It's a long time in the car. It's a long time in the heat. And then also with drink bottles failing, it's not a good recipe. So for sure, I think, they got the aero screen out and it's been working perfectly besides the cooling. But there's definitely some stuff that I'm sure they'll look into as we go forward. And obviously now guys are bringing it up. And we didn't really notice it in testing before because it was all in the wintertime, so it was all cool. And then, now that it's all hot, it's a bit of a problem. But they're gonna figure something out. It's not that difficult of a problem that it'll affect it for super long, but they'll figure something out for sure.
Cool. One thing I think we all noticed yesterday, Simon, the fans are so important, not just to IndyCar, but as we know, every sport. But this is a place that has always been so packed with people everywhere you look. Did y'all notice, did you feel that kind of stark difference like so many of us did, that huge component's not here right now?
But Rutledge, first of all, are you selling tickets?
Yes. Yeah, I am. And I'll give you a good deal, especially on the Friday package.
That's a pretty good deal.
If you want to. I found one room, you know what it is? I looked for every room that had a television that I could see the race and still talk to you guys, and this door was unlocked.
That's good. Good background. Roger would like that.
Yeah, he would. Did you see, Roger came up the other day, I was standing by the bricks, and he pulls up. Y'all, Roger Penske's a big deal. I think we can all admit that. Knowing that you show up here as a kid and say to yourself one day, I'm going to buy that place. Like, this is going to be mine one day. And the fact that it worked, that he did it, that he has been this successful and all these things. And then he pulled up, and Simon, I'm laughing because it's the captain. And he's like, what do you think? Are you asking me, sir? I think it looks fantastic. Yeah, the changes are awesome. And then he says, I want to make where the bricks come through, right in front of the pagoda. He said, I want to put bleachers up. I want there to be 20,000 people in here seeing our drivers go through underneath the pagoda. And you realize, like, it's everything. It's so vital, not only to this track and this place that he wanted, but to, like, all of us. We don't exist without these fans that are watching this, that are home every weekend. But I did think, man, y'all have to notice as much as anybody else, because, like, no one's saying your name and cheering. Like, when you get in the car, you're just like, all right, Dave, I'll see you afterwards. Like,
it's so quiet. It is very different. The atmosphere is different. You definitely don't feel the uplifting from the fans, and you don't feel like a superstar. Let's just be honest. You feel like it's a normal day. You're actually racing almost every day. And I think we all miss the fans. I think, IndyCar is all about the fans, actually. We strive by that. We have an incredible attendance at the racetracks. I think one of the most of all series. And we definitely miss that feeling. I'll always remember last year in Mid-Ohio, I barely could walk to my car. There were so many people. So, and obviously the 500 is the same way. It's just such an incredible feeling to feel relevant in your sport. So we miss them, but we'll get to see them next week. So that's great.
For sure. And guys, we all got to be part of this historic weekend to have NASCAR and IndyCar at the same track on the same weekend. There was certainly a lot of people, and I get it. I get you weirdo purists out there who think we can't all party together. I think you're bonkers, but whatever. Let's talk about what that was like for y'all, because there was a handful of guys that said, oh, man, it'd be really cool if I could have found a ride to go do the Xfinity Series race in the afternoon. I totally would have. I realized y'all were probably too hot to think that was a good idea after the race. But for all of y'all to be a part of this historic weekend, what did you guys think about it?
Incredible. It just was, if anything, it was a shame that the fans weren't here to really be the big winners of it. Because at the end of the day, that's going to be your big winners of an event like this are the fans. I know for me, if I was going to show up to a race weekend and I wasn't driving, well, I don't know a cooler weekend than if you had a NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader, that's like stacked right back up against each other. It's just really cool. That's never been done before. And I mean, it just should happen. We're not going to be together every weekend of the year, but to do that 2 or 3 times out of the year and you can mark your calendar as like a special event, I think it's awesome. And everyone wants to cross over. Okay. I don't think there's any driver that doesn't want to be doing that. So you're going to get the same answer from everybody. Everybody wants to try, each other's seats.
Well, we saw, last fall at Charlotte, Joseph, you came down there, right? Was it last fall in Charlotte?
Yeah, right after the championship, yeah.
For you other three, imagine all the teams that work on these cars. Some of these dudes have been this is their whole life. It might be what their dad did. And then Joseph rolls out with his Indy car, and these dudes were like, I'm sorry, what? And everybody came out of the garage that came to watch this car on pit road. And that was that moment for me that I know y'all feel, because turns out it's really cool you guys are racing IndyCar, but you love to race. And all of you have a history that shows it never really mattered what it was before. This is where you are. But I think at the core of it, y'all probably all know, and Alex, I know you're thinking about, but why do we not put these parties together more often and celebrate everybody, I think, the way that we did this weekend?
Well, I think you, Joseph, hit the nail on the head. It's fantastic. It needs to happen. It's good that it happened. I think ultimately all of us are all race fans at heart, right? That's how we got involved in this. So anytime you break up your normal routine with something different, we all watch cup races on TV when we're not racing, right? So for it to be there at the same time, we're obviously going to go, walk out to a corner and pay attention, and you have your buddies that are doing it and stuff. So we're as much of a race fan of the other series as someone who's more of a sit home or attend races type of fan. But I think the biggest thing out of all of this is that, a lot of unprecedented things happened at the beginning of this year to our world and to motorsports. And the fact that both series were open to it, to make it happen. And I think that's really a huge barrier that's kind of been broken through. Is in the past, there's been kind of a lot of opposition because, ultimately each championship is trying to do things a little different, a little better. And as much as it's competitive on track, it's competitive off track as well. But the fact that we made it happen so that we could all get races in and do as many races as we could on the calendar this year, I think is a really good start. I think the success of it and the fact that logistically it's all gone really smooth so far, I think it's really going to pave the way for doing this more in the future. And I couldn't be more excited about it. And as Joseph said, I can't wait for the fans to be able to see it as well.
It would be cool. Colton and Simon, I know you two have driven a million different things just like these guys, but for you two, seeing the reaction of people in the 2 different races that we had yesterday on the same track, are y'all a little bit more jealous of Mario and AJ than you were before, seeing and understanding why going and hopping in a stock car and an Indy car another week? Does that jump out more as an interest for either of you? Let's start with you, Colton.
Yeah, I think any of us in here would drive anything that we're able to. And a stock car, I think, would be a lot of fun. I would love to try and do it at Daytona or Talladega, just because I think the strategy behind it and the effort it actually takes with the side drafting and all that is really cool. It's really neat. And the last lap, how they defend and they run the second lane, which is faster on your own. It's really interesting to watch. So I would love to. I've always wanted to do the truck race at Eldora as well. That's like been like my number one away from IndyCar race that I'd like to do. I think that'd be awesome. I've never driven anything on the dirt, so it'd be a different experience.
That would be awesome. We got to call Tony Stewart on that one. Simon, what about you? I know that's for someone that loves racing and the cool cars that you have. Do you feel that AJ Foyt, the Mario vibe more and more?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a different time, and it's what's making it so difficult because every teams are so close to each other now. Every drivers are so well prepared. I think we all got to a point where it's like any sports, like everybody's got to a certain level and we're getting closer to the limit. Everybody's getting very close to that limit. So the margin is not the same as it used to be. Now, in Mario's time, there used to be a car that was like a second quicker than the other car and vice versa. So there was a bigger margin to play with. Now, like, for example, myself, and I know Will Power feels the same way. When we go racing IndyCar, it's very difficult to switch your mind off and go on and drive a different car at the same level. And again, I'm saying 100%, not 99. And that's difficult. It's being able to go one car and another within the same season and be really good with it. So actually Alex and I are doing a teammates at Acura Team Penske on the sports car side. So we actually do the switch, but it's at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season. So it works out really well, but keeps you fresh, I must say. Later on in my career, I'll definitely experiment a lot of different stuff that I've been wanting to do, but I'll wait a little longer till my goals are fully attained.
Last question before I'll let you go. I have to believe that as IndyCar drivers, knowing that Jimmy Johnson was jumping at the chance to go test an IndyCar, and I know once he gets feeling better, and we're thinking about him and his family, obviously, but like that has to be pretty cool for y'all to know that this guy that we think is one of the GOATs wanted to come do what you do. That has to be special for y'all.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's more than you realize. We always use Jimmy because he's a great example, right? He's one of the best that's ever driven in NASCAR and an incredible champion. But like, there's so many drivers that you can point to that want to do the crossover, whether it's from IndyCar going to NASCAR or NASCAR going to IndyCar. I know Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, like they are begging to do a seat swap at some point. We've all been talking about it in the team. So I think there's just a ton of people that you could add to the list that would want to do these swaps if we could.
Sure. Kurt Busch did it, and hats off to him, 700th start this weekend. I mean, what a bad mammer jammer. And I feel like y'all's appreciation for someone like that who did it is even higher.
Definitely. Is it just me? Anyone can answer this. Kyle, too. Kyle wants to do it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the double's pretty unique. I mean, I think as much as Simon touched on, it's difficult to be really competitive at both levels. I think Kurt did a great job in both of those events, but you got to find the team owners that are also willing and ready.
That's a great idea.
Ready to sign up for that. Because obviously, I mean, there's risk involved, right? I mean, and
sure.
Whatever your full-time team owner is, they're going to, have their opinions on whether or not they want you to risk the rest of your season doing this fun race, right? So I think there's a lot of other factors besides the desire to go into it. But, I think that, as we go forward, there's a lot of opportunities out there. And at the end of the day, everyone, like I said, is just a fan of racing, and we're all going to jump at the opportunity if they present themselves. So if anyone is watching this and wants to let me drive a cup car, hit me up.
You know what? I think that's a perfect way to end this, fellas. I'm sorry we didn't have a race to watch with you. I hope we can do that again in the future sometime. But thank you so much for hanging with us. Josef Newgarden, Alexander Rossi, Colton Herta, Simon Pagenaud. Guys, thanks for hanging with us. What a fun weekend to share with you all here in Indy. Keep doing what you're doing. We got a great IndyCar season coming at everybody on NBC, and we're glad to have you. Thank you, fellas.
Thanks.
Sweet. Thanks so much.
Enjoy the race.
See ya.
Hey Motorsports fans, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe before you go for all the latest news and highlights across motorsports.